Hey, good evening and welcome to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are broadcasting live from the gun store here in Las Vegas on YouTube at Fired Up with Bob Irwin and on KSHP radio, 1400 on your AM dial. But if you can hear me, you know that. This show is all about guns and related politics, especially now, and self-defense issues. My guest tonight is local attorney Bill Gamage. Bill, if you can give a little bit of your background for listeners, we'll go from there.
Thanks for having me, Bob. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I'm also someone that handles civil issues as well. I have about 10 to 12 years of law enforcement experience in my background. As you know, we met teaching academies, teaching firearms. So I know a lot of the issues related to the use of firearms, use of force, and how that whole environment works.
Yeah, Bill and I met back when I was teaching police academies. Bill and I met at an instructor school, and he helped me teach a number of academies. And it makes him really a unique attorney for this because he understands not only the law, but how guns work. And I spend a lot of my time in cases trying to explain to attorneys, guns won't do that, and bullets don't really go sideways and so on. And Bill knows that. So he has a leg up. Strongly recommended if you get yourself in some kind of a jackpot over a gun use. Bill is a good choice. You'll find his contact information on the website. Anyway, we're going to go through some cases tonight. Every week there are several hundred defensive uses of firearms in the United States. The media doesn't often report defensive uses. They only report bad uses in general. So we always start out with a few cases for our listeners' education. We generally leave the names out, and sometimes I leave the cities out if it's too specific, because what I want listeners and viewers to understand is these are, if you were in this position, and many of them are good shootings, but they could have been a little better if the guy would have thought it through one more time. So we're going to critique ones that are good shootings as well as some bad shootings, and occasionally a really stupid shooting. Which is kind of in here for the fun of it. And also tonight, as we have announced, we've been doing a raffle here at the gun store for a couple weeks. And tonight, after the second or third story, we're going to draw the ticket and give away this magical Kimber Gold Combat Limited Edition to some lucky winner who's got a ticket in this jar. I'll have Bill draw the number so you all know nothing's up here, nothing's up here. And Bill tried to put one of his tickets already in it, but we wouldn't let him. So anyway, we are a couple of stories here we want to talk about first, and we'll get to the drawing in about 10 or 15 minutes. This is from mlive.com in Maricosta County, Michigan. A 23-year-old man got into a heated argument with his 24-year-old roommate around 4 a.m. They're living together in an apartment. They both have separate bedrooms. The 23-year-old backed away from the argument and locked himself in the bedroom. The 24-year-old then tried to force the door, apparently to physically assault his younger roommate. We have no idea what the fight was about. That wasn't covered in the story. The roommate inside the locked door held the door and pushed the door so the guy could not push his way through. Failing to get in, the aggressor then went and got a hammer and began to pound on the door to break through the door with the hammer. When a blow from the hammer went through the door and nearly hit the 23-year-old's head, he fired what he called a warning shot from a firearm he had in the room. That apparently ended the confrontation. The roommate with the hammer was later arrested by sheriff's deputies for aggravated assault. This is another warning shot case. As you regular listeners know, I love warning shot cases. Apparently now, first, we don't know what the argument's about. There are no details on that. One would think that the aggressor smashing through, and it's an interior door, so we'll assume it's a fairly flimsy door, gives the guy hiding in the room sufficient cause to believe that he's in danger of death or great bodily harm. And the warning shot is the question. It's apparently directed safely because it didn't hit anybody. Didn't hit the guy, didn't hit himself, didn't hit,
A neighbor.
We don't know the layout of the room and what was on the other side of the door besides the bad guy, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, it appears obvious to me that a verbal warning isn't going to do any good, because they're already yelling at each other and he's barricading himself in his room and so forth. Verbal warnings are always better because they don't kill anybody.
Absolutely.
And Bill being a firearms instructor, that's why this is the lead story. So I can lay this one on him, that my contention would be here we have a reasonable use of the loud noise of a warning shot to get the guy to cease and desist. And in this case, it did. It brought the guy to his senses, I guess, that he, didn't want to do this. And when the police came, they arrested the aggressor, not the guy firing the round. Again, because we don't know the layout of the building and maybe it was safely aimed.
You don't need to know the layout of the building. We also don't know what kind of firearm. What if he pulled up an AR-15 and he wanted to discharge a .223 round through a wall, or he had an AK-47 in the room, and he wanted to discharge a warning round. That'll go through a couple of apartments.
Yes, I know
plus a car and a bulletproof vest. So, rounds downrange, not aimed, shouldn't be fired.
They all hit something. I will agree.
Yeah.
My blind spot in here is I hate to get into a case and never do this.
But you should say 99.9% of the time, don't fire warning shots.
I agree.
Do verbal commands, stay barricaded, and if the guy breaks through the door, then shoot him. That is what you need to do.
Shooting.
A warning
shot.
Yes. Because hopefully by the time he breaks through the door, he's going to see that you have a gun pointed at him.
When I pulled the same thing on Andy Loom last week on a case sort of like this, she did say that she used the warning shot as an argument to show the guy was trying to not kill anybody. And in two cases, and they were plea bargained ultimately, so it didn't go to a jury, but she thought it could be helpful to the jury that he's trying to show he doesn't want to kill a guy. But in either case, she actually went to the jury, so we never know.
But the person ended up with a conviction.
Yes. They were plea bargained to something else. Yeah, but it was part of the plea bargain. She thinks it helped give the prosecutor less tools to work with.
Okay.
And juries are always a crapshoot. Trust me on that. Plea bargains in most cases are a better idea. You can send us a question or comment to bob@firedupmail.com, and please friend us on Facebook. There's a little sign up there. The gun store does offer free concealed carry permit classes every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and you will learn almost never to fire a warning shot. All of my instructors say never fire a warning shot.
Except Bob.
No matter what, unless rare instance you catch me personally teaching the class, and I'll say almost never. Anyway, we have the classes. You can find them on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. This is from CBS WTVR TV6 in Richmond, Virginia on the 9th of this month. 50-year-old boy has been charged with second-degree murder and use of a firearm during the commission of a felony for shooting and killing a man who investigators say was attacking his 36-year-old mother inside her home. This is the Spotsylvania County Sheriff's Office. This is kind of an odd legal thing. The attackers identified as the mom's 37-year-old boyfriend. The sheriff's deputies say they found the suspect inside the home when they responded at 3:45 in the afternoon. Earlier in the day, the subject and his 36-year-old girlfriend got into an argument that lasted apparently for several hours. Then the suspect physically attacked the woman while her son, the 15-year-old, was watching. At some point, the 15-year-old son went to a place in the home where he knew there was a firearm. He took a semi-automatic firearm from that location and fired several shots, striking the attacker multiple times. The teenager's mother was treated for non-life-threatening injuries from the beating she was taking, not from the gunfire. The 15-year-old suspect is being held at Rappahannock Regional Jail. Detectives, in consultation with the Spotsylvania Commonwealth Attorney's Office, filed petitions for the arrest of the teenager who fired the shots. This was the interesting thing. Investigators under Virginia law, all homicides are considered second-degree murder until proven otherwise. So because he fired the shots that killed the attacker, he is initially booked with second-degree murder. Then the investigation continues, and the county attorney, the Commonwealth attorney, can raise it to a more serious charge, lessen it to a less severe count, or dismiss it altogether, according to the sheriff's spokesman. So obviously what I'm outlining here from what we know is a perfectly valid shooting. It could be the devil's in the details.
The problem is what we've discussed before, Bob. When using deadly force in aid of a third party, you have a different standard in the sense of you are held liable if it turns out you're making a mistake, you don't have the facts correct. You're not like a law enforcement officer who gets more benefit of the doubt when you're a citizen. Was he using sufficient force to constitute the use of deadly force by the teenager? I mean, there's going to be an issue, and that's always an issue of fact for a jury, which puts you in a very bad position. Now, I would love to try this case if it had to be tried. Obviously, the best way to handle this case is to not ever have it go to a trial, to hopefully get it dismissed, or at least, at the very least, if they wanted to do some sort of charging, have it done in a juvenile court, so that it didn't get to some sort of a criminal issue. But that's the problem here. The issue is related to whether or not, she says non-life-threatening injuries for the mom, which indicates that it may have been just hand-to-hand. And hand-to-hand isn't necessarily sufficient for you to escalate to a deadly force level to combat the hand-to-hand. Now, for a law enforcement officer, that can be true with other sufficient articulable circumstances, but not for a citizen.
Because the law enforcement officer is required to intervene when people are being beaten, as in this example. They cannot do nothing in any state. So they need to protect whoever is being beaten. The son doesn't have that same requirement. However, he's making a decision as a 15-year-old.
Diminished capacity.
Yeah, there's so many details. That's why I wrote in my notes, the devil's in the details. Did the guy see the gun, back away, and then the son fired, or that would be a wrongful shooting, obviously.
Prior history. Has the man done some violent things that would give him personal knowledge that this guy, when he says he means to do something, he's really going to hurt somebody? What were the verbal commands of this attacker? Was he saying, "I'm going to kill you"? Things like that would give any reasonable person an understanding that this is a deadly situation. Yeah.
So open-ended again. We're only working from very limited knowledge here. It struck me that the standard procedure is to make the charge of second-degree murder, and then they go up or down from there
and book the person.
Usually,
usually, you take this to a grand jury. If I was a prosecutor, I'd take this to a grand jury, and I bet 99 times out of 100 they wouldn't indict in a case like this. Just because they want to help the kid.
Because they would see, there's a kid making a decision to save his mom, that. Provided we're seeing the case as all the details are. Devil is in the details. Please friend us on Facebook. We offer a ladies and only personal safety class twice a month, second and fourth Friday, taught by our resident wonderful female instructor, Maggie Mordaunt. Next class is Thursday, March 8th. You can sign up at thegunstorelasvegas.com, and we'll do one more, and then we'll give this away. Be patient. For those of you on the radio, I'm tapping my pen on this wonderful shiny kimber. This is KABC TV7 Eyewitness News that I listened to as a child in Los Angeles. A report from Apple Valley, California. We know where that is. Most of us locals here. It's in the valley on the way here. where the Roy Rogers Museum and so forth. Shortly before 11 a.m. on February 28th, an armed robbery occurred at Neil's Donuts in the 15,700 block of Tuscaloosa Road. This is in Apple Valley. Surveillance video allowed the authorities to positively identify the suspect as a local 20-year-old. They knew who he was. They've been chasing him around for years. This was on February 28th. On March 1st, which is 3 or 4 days later, a family friend found the bodies of a 95-year-old man and his 82-year-old wife inside their home in the 19,000 block of State 18 Outer Highway. A family friend said they were checking the couple. Investigators collected evidence at the scene that led them to name the same 20-year-old as a person of interest in the case. He had left some physical evidence as to who he was. Then on March 6th, now and 5 days later, a home invasion robbery occurred in the 15,000 block of Malin Road, again in Apple Valley. Evidence recovered at the scene was consistent with the donut shop robbery and the homicide, linking this third crime to the same 20-year-old suspect. Authorities say the same 20-year-old, who was from Lancaster, which is in the same area as these three crimes, was identified Thursday, March 10th as a suspect killed in a Torrance jewelry store by a Torrance jewelry store owner, during an armed robbery. During the shooting investigation in Torrance, the authorities said the suspect was found to be in possession of property stolen from the victim's Apple Valley, linking him to all three incidents: the donut shop robbery, home invasion, and the double homicide. This 20-year-old was released on parole from state prison on February 18. So we're going from February 18 to
10 days after he was
10 days. He's committed all these crimes. His previous convictions were for burglary, possession of stolen property, rape, grand theft, trespassing, and sexual battery. The investigations in all four incidents are ongoing. Where I'm going with this is we have a professional criminal who's only been out of jail for a week and a half, committed all these crimes. And what you have to realize nowadays, with most people having a gun in their home, or lots of people carrying concealed weapons, given a crime spree like this is, it's only a matter of time before you run into an armed citizen. It appears the only victim he had that was prepared was the operator of the jewelry store in Torrance. He was obviously prepared for this and had practiced with his gun, because he beat the guy to the draw when the guy came through the door. And how many more crimes did we just prevent by the jewelry store owner taking this guy out? It's only a matter of time. You know, there was a study done, I may have it later in the show, of the number of people that have guns in their home or concealed weapon permit holders, that if you do a spree like this, sooner or later you're up where the odds are against you that you're going to run into somebody who's armed and has a gun. Mm-hmm. And who knows how many crimes were stopped that this guy would have committed. Apparently he was headed for Texas, where he had family, or he was going to rob his way through Torrance into Texas. But wow.
He's 20.
He's 20 years old and did all this stuff prior, just got out of jail. We're not real good at locking up people who, I know the California jails are overcrowded and so forth. We're going to talk about that in another story here shortly. If you have a gun, practice with it, because you may be the fourth victim of somebody like this. We all know that a huge proportion of crime is committed by a minuscule number of people.
They'll be offenders.
Yeah, that just continue and continue and continue. And when I was working as a bailiff, I saw that over and over. We have the same people appear for beating their wives, or not licensing the dog, or writing a bad check, or cussing at their neighbors. It's the same guy, doing these things over and over again. Reminder, we have some basic and advanced pistol classes here at the gun store. Maybe this guy went to one. You can find them on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. Now we're going to take a moment and give away this wonderful Kimber Gold Combat Limited Edition $2,700 retail pistol. Nothing up your sleeves, Mr.
Say when. I'm not even looking.
Don't look.
I'm looking away.
We have ticket number 66, if you can see that on the air. Not going to give out the guy's name, but I have it right here.
Ooh.
And
It's very good penmanship.
he writes very neatly. Ticket number 66. Don't call me right now. I'm on the air. Get a hold of the store tomorrow. We'll get you your pistol. 66. Right?
That's a very nice pistol.
$2,700. It ought to be. And,
I cannot imagine all the
we have
customizations.
never even run the slide back because we don't want to scratch anything. It's a gorgeous pistol case and all that stuff with it. Wow.
Well, congratulations.
Yes. And if you're listening, number 66, don't call. I'm sure we'll see you when we open at 10 in the morning. This is from multiple media everywhere. This particular report is from the Inquisitor. This is in Vicksburg, Mississippi on the 10th, a couple days ago. There's a lot of versions of this depending on which report you're reading. So I picked one that was nearby, written by a local reporter. Vicksburg, Mississippi, an escaped murder suspect broke into a family's home before dawn on Thursday morning, took a man, woman, and a child hostage. It's believed the suspect managed to gain access to the family's Fort Hill Drive home after the husband had forgot to lock the front door of the house. The suspect attacked the husband when he came into the garage to start his wife's vehicle. Apparently, it's an attached garage, and he left the front door unlocked, and the guy was able to get into the garage. Anyway, the guy came in. He gets in. A fight starts between the husband and the guy, but the husband couldn't subdue the guy, and he eventually locked the couple and their 5-year-old son in the bathroom. We don't have an age on the couple, so I couldn't tell you about physical disparity there. A couple of hours later, the guy's out now ransacking the house, and they're locked in the bathroom. He allowed the wife to leave the bathroom for some reason. She returned with a handgun and shot the suspect. With the support of his wife, the husband managed to free himself and then fired additional shots at the captor. So there may be a little delay in between those things. The husband was taken to Merit Health Regional Medical Center for treatment since he suffered stab wounds inflicted by the suspect. That's in the initial fight. The guy had a knife, apparently. The 33-year-old suspect had escaped from Warren County Jail in Vicksburg on March 2nd. This is on March 10th, a week later. He was subject to a statewide hunt ever since he escaped after attacking a jail guard with a shank, a homemade knife, and donning the guy's uniform. And then he walked out pretending to be a guard. He managed to evade authorities for a week before he broke into this family's home. His body was in the bathtub when police arrived. The suspect had been in jail since January, charged with kidnap, rape, and murder of a 69-year-old woman whose badly beaten body was found dumped in an abandoned hospital last year. This is probably not the first time a jail escapee has been killed while still at large, but it might be one of the few instances where a murder suspect was killed by his own hostages. The couple has not been identified. They're not facing any charges at this moment. Obviously, given the layout, there's a question whether the guy climbed into the bathtub himself or after the husband shot him a few extra times, he ended up in the bathtub so he wouldn't bleed on the floor. But
I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking the fight happened in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's where they came in.
And I think the husband and wife shooting both happened in the bathroom.
Very likely. Some of the reports say that the wife helped the husband get loose, and then he came up with the gun. There, as usual, when I pull 4 or 5 media reports on the same thing, this is kind of a compilation.
Okay.
This reporter seemed to get more interviews with people that saw what happened and so forth. the reason for the story is, now here's a couple who's doing nothing, and this escaped murderer breaks into their house, ties them up. They've got a 5-year-old. If this couple had not had a firearm in their house, there is no doubt that they'd be dead. This guy has killed people before. And they're not doing anything except when the husband went out to warm the wife's car up for her, he didn't lock the front door. Got to secure your house all the time. And I encourage everybody who can walk and chew gun at the same time to have a firearm in your house because of things like this. This is just really scary. This is not an elderly couple that's the victim. It's people that have a 5-year-old child. So you never know who's going to come through that unlocked door. Be sure to lock your house up. Don't leave the back door unlocked while you're out in the yard, that sort of thing. And just child safety, we do also want to remind, this is a story that involved a child, but not directly, of course. We do teach the Eddie Eagle program here for gun safety for children. It's designed for little kids from 5 to 11 or so. It's a don't touch a gun scenario where kids learn if they see a gun to not touch it and call an adult that can take care of it and so forth. Great class. We teach them once a month. You can find the sign-up sheet there the 4th Friday of every month in the daytime. Again, our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com, has information. We get 10 or 12 kids for the class. They're really fun to watch. If you have a young child that you want to have learn a little bit of gun safety so they don't get curious when they find a gun. It seems almost every week we're doing a story about some child that found a gun and shot himself or his parents or his sister or whatever. Drives me crazy in the world of everybody gives away gun locks and things that people leave guns out. This kind of helps gun-proof the child from the other end, so that if you do something stupid, he won't pick up the gun. This is from Fox 13 in Seattle, Washington, where they restrict guns a lot. If you're from Washington, you know what we're talking about. There's this was all over the national media also. A customer in a 7-Eleven shot and killed a masked man who attacked a clerk with an axe early Sunday. This is your third-party defense, again, which are always a little dicey. This one's pretty good. Investigators say the shooting happened at the store in White Center, approximately 5:45 in the morning. Witnesses say a man entered the store, swung a hatchet toward a customer before turning his attention to the clerk. And I have to tell you, as I read this story, it's interesting. Most of the left-wing media said he attacked with a hatchet, and the conservative media said he attacked with an axe. It makes the shooting sound better if he's shooting an axe-wielding guy, and if you're a left-side reporter, you call it a hatchet, which is smaller and not
small, diminutive,
a petite axe. Okay. Anyway, he swung the hatchet toward the customer. The customer backed away. The guy turns his attention to the clerk in the store. He attacked the clerk, actually cut him with the hatchet or the axe. The customer then pulled out a pistol and fired, hitting the suspect. The clerk suffered minor injuries in his stomach from the hatchet, and the suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. The customer who shot the suspect is unidentified, except he's a 60-year-old Seattle man who visits the store every morning to get his coffee. His name was not released. The man who shot the attacker had a concealed carry permit and will likely not face charges as a result of his actions. This could have been a lot worse, said King County Sheriff spokesman Cindy West is her name. The clerk could be the one lying there dead on the floor right now. The motive for the assault is not clear. Investigators say the axe-wielding man remained silent throughout the assault. The assailant's identity was not released, only described him as a man in his 40s. This is a perfect third-party defense.
Absolutely.
We have clearly the bad guy swung the axe at least at the guy carrying his gun. He backed off. Then the guy charged the clerk and actually cut the clerk. Then the guy drew his gun and fired clearly in this guy's immediate defense. Third-party defenses are always scary things, but where you've got the guy actually in the act of trying to murder somebody, we really don't have to guess who the bad guy is. The guy with the hatchet and wearing the mask that just swung at you is the bad guy.
He's made his intent pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean, this turns out to be a Halloween prank. No, because he actually cut the guy with the axe. So if this citizen, and I use this story to tell you to carry your gun. Every week, somebody in class says, when they especially come to renew their permit, they say, well, I don't normally carry. I only carry when I'm going someplace really dangerous or whatever. The answer is, don't go there if it's really dangerous.
True.
But bad guys are targets of opportunity. This guy's in a 7-Eleven getting coffee like he does every morning, and here a bad guy shows up. If he had chosen only to carry his gun, sometimes this clerk and maybe him would be dead right now.
Agreed.
You cannot decide when you're going to be attacked.
No.
It doesn't work. Third-party defenses are dicey. This one ain't. Speaking of that, we also have a wedding chapel here at the gun, so I can't lead into this from. I started with putting this behind a domestic fight, and that didn't work out. So we have a wedding chapel here that's really kind of cute. We have shotgun weddings, vow renewals, whatever you want, simple ceremony to a whole package. You go to the gun store, lasvegas.com again, click on special events, and you will get a whole gamut of things we can do for weddings. They're a kick in the head. If you haven't been to a wedding at the gun store, they're just really, some of them are very serious. Most of them are a little campy. Terrific stuff. The News 3 in Memphis, Tennessee this week on the 2nd. Yeah, a 16-year-old suspect in an attempted robbery and attempted murder is dead, being shot by one of his victims. This is, again, a self-defense case. Police say a couple was sitting in their car outside a house in the 1700 block of Denison Street. This is in Memphis, Tennessee, about 1:30 a.m. when 3 men walked up to rob them. The suspects fired a shot in the air.
It says into the car.
I'm sorry. The suspect they fired a shot into the car as a warning. No, it was not a warning shot. It was shot into the car. It hit the male victim sitting on one side of the car. Police say he was still able to draw his gun and return fire, hitting the 16-year-old suspect in the chest. The suspect was taken to his mother's house by 2 other suspects. His mother then drove him to Delta Medical Center. He was transferred to Regional Medical Center where he died from his injuries, unfortunately. Police say the victim who was hit by the robber's gunfire is expected to recover. Police are still looking for the other 2 suspects. This is pretty unusual that the robber tries to kill you first and just fired around into the car.
Could be gang related.
Could be. Or they decided in advance they're going to kill everybody, or who knows? I mean, who does that? The problem with looking at these cases is you think, what would I do? And you can't think that way because you don't think like this moron. Who did that? Yeah. There's, we look at prevention. What could the victim do here to nothing? You can't never leave your house. He's sitting in a car, probably to get some quiet from the rest of the people in the house. I don't know, at 1:30 a.m. and somebody just walks up and fires around into the car.
Or he's there to pick up somebody.
You can't prevent that except by staying home all the time, and nobody wants to live like that. And this, I'm afraid, will develop or could develop into the recrimination because you shot a 16-year-old child.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, the guy in the car doesn't know that,
He just knows
it's
somebody's
1:30
shooting.
in the morning. He just knows that bullets coming into the car. He doesn't know who he's shooting back at. Apparently, he hit the shooter instead of somebody else, which is nice. It's a common self-defense case. It's a good self-defense case where nobody wins. No doubt the relatives of the 16-year-old, now we may have a family thing that's going on for decades. You know, you killed so-and-so and he didn't do anything and except try to kill you, and you should have known it was a 16-year-old, and we hear it all the time, and it's unfortunate. This one, there's nothing we could say other than don't leave your house and you can't live like that. It just, good shooting, sure. Is it likely to be a problem for the shooter like most shootings are? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It never ends at that moment. The police walk up and goes, good shooting, pat you on the head, give you a free bullet, and send you on your merry way, because there are families on both sides that will see it from their point of view. Had a long talk this morning on a case that I was going to work on. I'm probably going to work on with an individual, and the one individual is convinced that his child couldn't have done this crime. And I tried to explain to him that neither he nor I were there. So I need to read through everything to see what the case actually is about. To get the details, if you want to, we offer these free concealed firearm permit courses 3 days a week here at the gun store, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. We only charge you for the ammunition to qualify with and $10 for the county's paperwork. You can sign up for the classes on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. If you have a gun in your home or you carry one, even if you don't have a permit and carry one anyway, a lot of people seem to do that. Not advocating that, get a permit, because that's one strike against you if you're illegally carrying the gun. When you have to use it, look out.
You lose your gun too.
Yeah, you lose your gun, and if Bill's not available to defend you, you could go to jail. But if you are available, taken care of. I'm gonna skip 7 again. I got a really kind of a good shooting case, but I've never been able to verify it. It's a single source case, and I don't want to use it.
Okay.
Lenny Davis, who's on here all the time, was here last week, and we had this case. I didn't use it, and he said, I know a guy at the Spotsylvania, but he couldn't get anything out of him either. Their PIO never called him back, so well, great self-defense case if it really happened. This is just an annoyance case, not a self-defense case. This just ticked me off. Multiple media, this is all over the news right now. In Oakland, California, a party bus returning from San Francisco was fired upon on Interstate 80 just east of the Bay Bridge early Saturday morning, injuring 4 passengers. It's the latest in a recent surge of East Bay shootings. Investigators received no cooperation from the passengers of the bus that was shot at, one of whom was assaulted an officer attempting to interview her. It's a very unusual situation, said a CHP, California Highway Patrol spokesman Daniel Hill. Another passenger who suffered a minor gunshot injury scuffled with paramedics trying to treat her and ultimately forced her way out of the ambulance and ran. The bus just traveled over the Bay Bridge. It was heading south into Interstate 880 at 2:45 in the morning when 2 gunmen in a red SUV pulled alongside it and opened fire. 1 passenger was critically injured, hospitalized in stable condition. Now, 3 other passengers suffered minor injuries. No passengers were arrested. No officers were injured. This is the 8th freeway shooting in the East Bay since November. Officers blame the recent spike in escalating gang war in the Richmond area, where 6 shootings like this have taken place. Another shooting occurred near the University Avenue in Berkeley. How can they shoot anybody in Berkeley? The freeways apparently are a clever way to settle scores between gangs, fewer surveillance cameras, etc. CHP has not determined whether these were gang related. I have. They're gang related. It is not likely related to other recent. It was likely related to other freeway shootings around Richmond. We've got in this area a whole slug of sanctuary cities where convicted murderers are set free. We've got, this is the inmates taking over the asylum. I mean, this type of thing is totally out of control of law enforcement. It reminds me, remember when in New York they decided not to patrol Central Park and let the gangs have it between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m.? And they're still doing that a little bit, apparently. How can this law enforcement just can't get a handle on this? They're undermanned, and I know that. And
I don't know if this has anything to do with immigration. I don't know who the people were in the bus. For all we know, they were, party goers or something. It's a party bus. I don't know.
And they fought with the cops and fled the scene and wouldn't interview. And it's nobody on either side is a witness to anything. Nobody saw nothing. We're handling it ourselves.
I don't even know why they even came to this conclusion that it's gang related. I don't know.
Perhaps graffiti or tattoos on the victims, or who knows. It's crime is rampant until we start putting bad guys in jail and keeping them there.
You would think that if you were on a party bus with a bunch of people, they were your friends, and one of them was really, really, really hurt, you would want to assist people with catching the people that really, really, really hurt them. You would think. You would think,
rather than fight with the police to get away and run from the ambulance
and not tell them anything.
Trying to treat you. And lately, I've got into this speech at every one of these shows. Terrorist attacks are happening despite of what the government says that they're not. From infiltrated foreign terrorists or domestic converted terrorists, we're having those. If you are caught in a terrorist attack or any attack, for that matter, first try to run. It's better not to engage. If you can make yourself safe, run and let the police handle it. If you can't run anywhere, hide. If you can't hide or run, then you need to attack the attacker before he kills you. We need to fight back against terrorism or against criminals. If you have a concealed carry permit, carry your firearm, as I mentioned earlier in the show. It's much better to have it and not need it than the other way around. A couple of examples here of where these cases would have gone if these people did not have a firearm. Owning a firearm and get some training on how to use it. I see it as a patriotic duty. If you remember the definition of a militia in the Constitution, it is the people. All of the people are the militia, not the National Guard. Read the Constitution, carry your gun, and defend yourself from crime. So there. While we're on that, this I hate. Again, I mean, this is a nothing story. It just got my dander up. This is in Lexington, Massachusetts. Yes, that Lexington. It's earned the name as an enduring place in the quest for American freedom. Much of the town went down in history on April 15, 1775 for being the site of the shot heard round the world fired by Minutemen against the British Redcoats, the occupying army. Residents on Tuesday, March 8th this year debated a plan requiring some to turn in their arms. The citizens' petition by a resident, a guy named Professor Robert Rotberg, would ban the sale, ownership, or possession of semi-automatic firearms and their associated magazines. The professor, who's a resident of the town, was formerly the president emeritus of the World Peace Foundation and a program director at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. He apparently believes that Lexington is the place to push for more gun control. He said to National Public Radio Just as we fired the first shot to start the revolution, this might be the first shot to start the movement against assault weapons that would capture the state and therefore explode to reach the entire country. You know, you don't know what to say. I mean, what you've already got this started in Cleveland. I mean,
But what just
the Lexington City Council is going to vote to ban military-style weapons for civilians.
again, I said this once, I've said it 100 times. What's so frustrating about these stupid arguments is that nobody has fixed the definitions. That what is an assault weapon? What is not an assault weapon? You know, and the politicians play silly little games so that the gun industry, trying to survive as an industry, hey, if I connect this handle over to the stock, then it's not an assault weapon, or if I don't do that, then it is, or if the magazine doesn't have a curve to it, then it's that, and if it's more than this length, then it's that. It's just really a waste of time. Certainly, the possession of a firearm is a constitutional right. The United States Supreme Court very, very recently has said so. And the only thing that's allowed is reasonable regulation aimed at a legitimate government interest. And when you can't even figure out what the definitions are, a government agency can't come up with a legitimate government interest.
No, and Hillary's made a lot of statements lately about getting rid of the gun industry, and she's got a way to do it, trying to void out the Protection Act that prevents dealers, I've mentioned this before, dealers and manufacturers and distributors from being sued for criminal misuse of their products. And somebody beats you with a frying pan, you don't sue the manufacturer of the frying pan. It wasn't sold with the intention of bashing somebody's face in.
It would require a sea change in the law for that to come into place. It really would. It's smoke and it's mirrors. I'm telling you, even if you gave the liability has to actually be created, and then it has to be foreseeable.
Yes.
It's about foreseeability. Those facts of that shooting have to be foreseeable to the industry that sold the gun, and
right.
It's impossible.
Well, their claim is putting a military-style gun on the street.
Yeah, right.
You know, they should
Why don't we talk
know
about the
it's
car
going to be
industry?
used, except they're used for hunting and target and everything else other than it. We know it's all crap. That it's just a government power grab kind of thing. I found an interesting article also in the Daily Caller. They have a news foundation now. They do investigative work. It's a conservative piece, obviously. But they looked at self-defense shootings for the last year between July 2014 and July 2015 and found that hundreds of potential victims were saved by gun-toting Americans. That's their word, gun-toting. Mm-hmm. Many of the defenders in the analysis were saving multiple lives, as in they were referring to a shooting that prompted them to do the study. The analysis found that gun carriers, people with concealed carry permits, were able to defend themselves usually without killing the invader or the attacker. Of 217 suspects in their analysis, that's in this year's period, 148 perpetrators survived their encounter with the gun carrier, whether they took a gunshot wound or simply fled. The other 69 were killed. So way more than half the suspects involved survived. What they can't do in their data, of course, is discover when the 69 people that were killed, how many crimes did they prevent? I can give you some examples we just did of crime sprees, a couple of them in tonight, of people that just committed multiple crimes in a very short amount of time. And of course, what we'll never know is how many more crimes would that guy have committed if he had not run into an armed person.
Yeah. Guess you could say that.
Well, at least 69 of them didn't commit it. Remember Reagan's famous comment about he executed so many people, and his response was when he was governor that none of those guys ever committed another crime.
Well, that's very true. It deters them. You know, and so that's been an argument in support of the death penalty for a very long time. It deters the person that was executed from committing any future crimes. So
Seriously deters them.
Yes.
Yes, I would think so. If they have the right mix of the joy juice or whatever. I want to mention the Firearms News Network. They're at firearms.net, carries this show now. And Fired Up with Bob Irwin is added to their group of bloggers. Next week in Reno, we've got the Rocky Mountain Gun Show. They have found a venue in Reno they are using. Hopefully by this broadcast, they'd have one set in Las Vegas. They do not as yet, but they're working on a couple. So the Rocky Mountain Show will be back here somewhere in the south end of town. They're working on it. We've got a Las Vegas Gun Show up at the Sports Center, April 16 and 17. That we will be there with our brass and whatever, and hopefully one of our attorneys will be there on Saturday to answer your questions in person. Or I'll be there on Saturday anyway from 11 to 1. Usually I try to make it. So if you want to talk about something, we can talk in person. We always get questions that people don't want to send in on the air. And my advice to you is that illegal gun that you have, you throw it in the lake instead of anything else. But I say that to somebody at every single gun show. I've got this. My uncle brought back from the War of 1812. Yeah. Well, if it's from the War of 1812, it's probably okay. Nevada Firearms Coalition is having their annual banquet April 23rd at the Gold Coast. You can find tickets at www.nvfac.org, Nevada Firearms Coalition, nvfac.org, to arrange to get tickets to that. It's their annual fundraiser. It's a hoot at the Gold Coast. We'll be back here next Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. on 1400 AM radio and YouTube again at Fired Up with Bob Irwin. With my guest attorney will be Alan Butel, and once again, my favorite firearms instructor, second favorite firearms instructor, Lenny Davis, will be with us again. Thanks for listening to us on KSHP Radio and watching on YouTube. If you're planning a corporate event, we do those here for machine gun shooting and pistol shooting. Contact Melissa at thegunstorlasvegas.com. She will set up your corporate event. We're doing lots and lots of those now. We've got 30 lanes, so we can handle lots and lots of people. They're fun to do, and everybody has a good time, and nobody gets hurt because we're a lead-free range and we're safe. Questions or comments to bob@firedupmail.com. If you want to get a hold of Bill for something, if you just address your mail to that, bob@firedupmail.com, I will forward it, your contact information to him. And if you come to class here, we've got some business cards out of Bill's to find a lawyer if you need one.
we're also on Facebook under Gamage and Gamage.
Facebook on Gamage and Gamage.
Yes.
We
have a page on Facebook.
You have another person in your office with the same name?
Yes.
That's impressive. How did that, what are the odds?
It just happens sometimes.
So, Bill and I have known each other a long time. When I have more time in the show, I've explained to you a shooting drill that we did at a school we were at together up in Reno years and years ago that was pretty funny. And but anyway, that's too long a story for our remaining minute.
Hit the nose. Hit it on the nose, Bob.
Yes, I did. I'm getting better at the timing on this. How are we looking? Is the music playing yet there? He's pointing his finger.